OK, bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Jo-Ann et je m'habite en Toronto, so je m'excuse pour mon français limité. Merci de votre comprehension et patience. A little bit about me quickly. I'm a boomer. I have 3 kids, 2 grandkids, and a golden doodle named Nellie. We do an annual trend report. For those of you who don't know, this is the cover of our 8th annual one. And it's free to download. There will be details at the end. We also have some postcards if you want a downloadable link. It's free. It's kind of our gift back to the industry that's so good to us. And because this came out at the beginning of November, a lot of you have read it already, I assume. So I'm not going to go through all of the trends. I'm going to highlight a few key ones, and I'm going to talk about how they're playing out around the world with some trends in action. Okay, that's okay. Because it's been 6 months since then. But first, a little bit about artificial intelligence. And at Nourish, we like to think of it as augmented rather than artificial, because let's be honest, AI's been around for quite a while. It's been embedded in a lot of the tools we use on a daily basis for a number of years, but right now it's starting to become very, very sophisticated. And I think as it trains on more data, it's going to become smarter and smarter. And what AI is good at is recognizing patterns in innovation, but I don't think it's at the point yet where it can predict what I call real innovation. If you think about real innovation, groundbreaking innovation, it's really about deviating from past trends, right? So it's not a straight line. It's that sort of serendipitous discovery. So AI is good for something, so recognize what it's good for. But I do think AI is going to help us mitigate risk with new product development. It's going to speed up new product development cycles as well. But one place where we really see it taking a giant leap forward right now is what we call precise or precision personalized nutrition. And you know, a lot of us have wearables. I've got my iWatch. Some of us have continuous glucose monitors on our arms, right? Whether it be because we're a diabetic or just because we're interested. You know, there's programs like Levels, like NutriSense, where you can now do this. And most recently, this app is called January. It's free to download, and it actually, rather than telling you as you're eating something, it will predict how you are going to handle that food in terms of your glucose curve before you even eat it. You take a picture, and it's trained on a bunch of AI data. And so what these wearables do is they tell us what our bodies need right now. So that's a bit of a game changer. And of course, you know, why is that important? Younger generations, 66% of consumers 18 to 34 follow some kind of diet or eating pattern. That's significantly up from past years. Why is that? I think it's about social media and how people want to look a certain way. And we've talked about this before, you know, grocery and pharma on the cusp of really integrating and become something powerful. So most grocery chains have a staff nutritionist or a dietitian. And, you know, you've got standalone products like Noom, Viome, but we're starting to see these integrating at store level. So in the UK at the top, that is leading British health and wellbeing store, Holland and Barrett. And they now, in their London, UK flagship store, you go there, they swab your cheek, so they do a DNA test. And they also give you this DNA bean. So they combine all of this, so when you're shopping, it actually nudges you towards the products that are better for you. It's kind of crazy. And then Costco just, I think last month, announced an expansion of a partnership with a healthcare partner, Sesame. And what they offer their members now are a weight loss program for $179 for an initial 3-month subscription. And members get clinical consultation, video consultations, nutrition recommendations, and individual treatment programs. And it's rumored that part of this will also be those GLP-1 drugs that I will speak about with the next trend. But if you think about this, this really could be that ultimate loyalty program that grocery has been looking for, right? Once you've got all of that data integrated and it tells you how to eat, it's going to be really hard. Just like it's hard to change banks, it's going to be hard to change grocery stores in the future. So looking at some of these trends in action, some of you may have heard of this, AI Conic Coffee. It's a coffee blend that's been crafted by AI. And the founder said the AI bot weirdly chose 4 different types of beans, which is highly unusual, right? Usually it's a single source or a couple of beans. But what they did on a blind testing, this really outranked everything else. So that worked really, really well. This is another one, in terms of, it's one thing to know what you should be taking in terms of minerals and vitamins. It's another thing to have it all in one nice gummy stack. So these are personalized 3D printed vitamins, and they're freshly made on demand by tailor-made nutrients. So this is happening now. And it's interesting to see that they also have not just only personalized for yourself, but they also have her stacks and sleep stacks, which lean into a couple of trends that we talked about in the last few years. Of course, another use for AI is scanning and scraping all of the data that you see on restaurant menus, e-commerce sites, and it uses that to really identify new flavor combinations and trending profiles. And an example of how that was used is Starbucks' new caramel spice or apple spice latte, which they're hoping is going to be the new pumpkin spice. And then, of course, ChatGPT is now giving you personalized recipe suggestions based on what you have at home, right? So this whole idea of smart, responsive recipes really are the future. So the next trend I want to dive into a bit is water. We're seeing more and more competition for water. It's predicted that if we keep going the way we're going, we will be 40% short of meeting our global needs for water by the year 2030, right? And where's most of that water going? Agriculture. 70% of all freshwater withdrawals. And it's interesting because marketers, we've seen this, have been trying to create meaning around things like regenerative agriculture or no-till, and it's not resonating with consumers. But what does resonate with consumers is water, right? It's the source of all life. And so because of that, what we've seen now is water is ranking higher than even plastics in terms of consumers' concerns globally. And we saw a huge increase. It's now up to 35% in terms of concerns with consumers, and in the top 3. We've also seen over the past 4 years a 40% increase in the number of food and beverage products making some kind of water usage claim. And so we do think with, you can't not hear about water in the news every day, right? I woke up this morning and saw about the wildfires again up in Alberta. And so the stewardship of water, we believe, is going to be the next resource battlefield. And so some products that are leaning into that, Kazoo snacks. These are water-saving tortilla chips. They just won a Good Housekeeping Award in the U.S. For their sustainable innovation. And they use 40% upcycled corn germ, and that reduces their water footprint by at least 16 gallons for an 11-ounce bag of chips compared to new growth corn. Of course, Canadian, we've got vertical farmed Goodleaf. They cite, efficient water use on their website. Sesame milk, it uses 75% less water to produce than almond milk. And then this one just won some awards too, Aqua Botanical Water. It harvests water that's stored in fruit and vegetables and bottles it. And they use single source, so they may have water from carrots or water from tomatoes or sugar cane, and it takes it from an upcycled vegetable harvest and just squeezes what's left, and you get some water. So the next one is about staying sharp, about brain health. So our 2022 trend report highlighted how boomers and seniors were an under-targeted segment, and that continues. They're looking for functional foods. They want to age in place, and they've got the money to spend what it takes, right? And so, gray hair, wrinkles, that's an outward sign of aging. But an aging brain is far less noticeable. So a lot of people, do Sudokus and crosswords in the morning. So that helps. A healthy lifestyle helps. But most consumers would like a diet that also helps maintain healthy brain function. And it's predicted that the brain health functional food and beverage market is going to be worth $40 billion US by 2030. And it's got an annual growth rate right now of 11%. So definitely an underserviced area. And some consumers are starting to reduce their reliance on things like coffee and energy drink, and instead they're trying to lean into products that help them get a night of restorative sleep, right? And so this is a new product, Zurge. It has boosts brain health. It's got a proprietary blend of mushrooms, coffee berry, so it claims that it sharpens memory and supports cognitive function. Mosh is out of the US. It's a brain health brand that was founded by Maria Schwarzenegger and her son Patrick. And it's the first line of protein bars that have been formulated with adaptogens and nutrients linked to brain health. And a percentage of their sales actually go towards Alzheimer's research. And their tagline is, "Your brain is your number one tool." So choline is an essential nutrient that's needed for brain health and overall cognitive function. And despite how important it is, 90% of us do not get enough. But consumers are starting to wake up to it. If you look at trending searches for this product, they've been growing steadily. I show the soybean on there because Central Soya, which is a U.S. company, just received a claim in the U.S., good source of choline. So that just got approved. It's not in use yet, but I do think that's a sign of what's coming. And then this is a enhanced functional sparkling water. Again, it has citosilene, which is, again, a brain health nutrient. And it just was nominated for Best New Functional Food or Beverage at the Expo West Trade Show. So I'm thinking we may see some of these products next year at the SIAL show as well. So alcohol moderation, we know Gen Z millennials are distancing themselves from their boozy parents, especially in a time of legal cannabis, as well as social media, where nothing ever gets forgotten. I'm just so glad there weren't cell phones when I was growing up. But the times, they are a-changing. And so, when we do trend reports, we look at what's going on in fashion, we look at what's going on in music, and it's interesting. If you look at the music charts, alcohol has gone totally out of style. There's been a huge decline in chart topping songs that reference being drunk. So this really is a generational shift. And so we're seeing this emergence of not just non-alc, but low alcohol products as well, as consumers want to, give up all that alcohol without losing some of the taste. And so, in the trend report, you'll see how the alcohol content in wine has gone up over the years for a number of reasons. I won't go into that. You can read that. But it's interesting to see that consumers now, there used to be a stigma if you said, "Oh, I'm not drinking tonight," right? And I don't see that stigma anymore, right? People don't question it. It's not, oh, do you have an issue? Do people question your relationship with alcohol? Is that why you're not drinking? No, it's become socially acceptable. So I do think as that disappears, this is going to even increase more. So every time I say this, I get pounded. But I will say non-alcoholic beers have gotten really good. Like, I would argue sometimes if you do a blind taste test, you will not know the difference. Liquor, still not there, I don't believe. And wine is getting there. I will say that on the floor today, I tried some Austrian products that were pretty good. I tried a product out of Montreal that was pretty good. Cost can be a bit of an issue with these products as well. It's really hard to create a really tasty product at a price point that's appealing for consumers. But I do think that, we're going to see perhaps a couple of % of alcohol as a way to bridge that. So you are trying to drink less, but better, right? So I think that's a way of drinking. And, there's this term we've heard about flexitarians in protein. Well, I think there's a flexitarian in drinking as well. And it's interesting. If you look at Whole Foods US data, their number one beer is Athletic Brewing. It's a non-alc. Doesn't matter. It's number one across. And the interesting thing is when they look at their grocery data, consumers who buy that are also buying alcoholic beer as well. So, what's really exciting about this, I think, if you're in this, is that it's creating a whole new occasion, right? So Lake of Bays, Canadian product, low tide, 2.5% alcohol. It's a great product, right? So much lower than most alcohol, most beers. Corona Zero. What's interesting about this is it has an added functionality of vitamin D, which is kind of perfect for Corona's positioning. My background is I'm an ex-Molson president, so we had Corona as part of our stable when I was there. So it was all about sunshine and holiday. So that's perfect. UK Nice, this is lower ABV. They call it session wine. So it's just over 3%. So it delivers on taste. And then I found this really interesting. Everybody's heard of White Claw, hard seltzer, right? They've just come out with a non-alcoholic, 0 proof. So even they're seeing it. So when we wrote our trend report back in October and it was published in November, I would say the biggest pushback we got was around this trend. Everybody thought we were kind of crazy. And I will tell you that since that time, the one that I've been interviewed the most about is this one, because we're starting to see it. And why I find this really interesting is I believe this new class of drug really signals a mind shift in how we view obesity, right? It's now viewed as a chronic condition that can be cured. And I don't know if any of you have been following Oprah lately, right? She was on the board of Weight Watchers. She just donated, she resigned. She just donated all her shares to a not-for-profit. And I believe it was like 2 days ago, in her final speech at the board, she actually apologized to people. And she said, I was wrong. Willpower is not enough to lose weight. And so she's now using these drugs. And she thinks that they are just part of a way of maintaining your weight, that, consumers actually need these products. And of course, there may be, who knows how many people are on them, 5%, I don't know, but the price is going to come down. If I look at how much consumers are spending who are on this drug, they're spending, $300 easily less a month in food and drink. Well, that can fund a lot of drugs, right? So yes, they can be expensive, but I do think what we're going to do, I do think they're here to stay. If we look at 73% of North Americans are obese or overweight. So there is, and there's all sorts of related health issues with that. I've been in this business, and I'm sure a number of you as well have been in this business long enough to remember when gluten-free first started bubbling up, 15 years ago. And everybody thought it was a fad. And now it's a mainstream thing. So I do think that we're probably at the same place with these products. And so, like Oprah says, she doesn't use them all the time. She uses them to kind of cure that yo-yo dieting. I think when they first came out, everybody thought they were forever meds. And everything I'm reading, that idea is starting to change, that consumers can kind of change their habits and go off of them for a while. And so there's an opportunity for food and beverage makers to support consumers as they go through this journey with these drugs. And, the users, they really need to get more functionality. They're eating fewer calories, so those calories really need to count. And not just count in terms of nutrition, but also satiety, and also delivering on taste, really amping up the taste, really amping up the texture. That's going to be really important, the whole sensory side of things. And also smaller portion sizes, that's going to be big as well. And, there's also some other, nature's Ozempic, right, with GLP-1 boosting foods. If any of you are on TikTok, you've probably seen the Ozempic trend. I personally find it looks kind of disgusting to drink that stuff. But anyway, people are doing it. So I do think that there is going to be a new class of foods, like we have keto-friendly foods. I think there are going to be GLP friendly foods as well, because consumers are starting to understand that we can also naturally secrete this if we eat the right kinds of foods. But of course, for every trend, there's also kind of a counter trend. So there's still going to be a place for those tiny little treats, right? Those little luxuries, treating yourself. So that's going to be important as well. Supergut, that's a product that's out in the US, and it makes prebiotic fiber products that support GLP-1 production. And they have quadrupled sales in the US in the last 6 months. Daily Harvest, they are a meal kit company in the US. They have come out with what they call a GLP-1 companion food collection of pre-portioned foods for people who are on those drugs. Frito-Lay just came out with mini sizes of their snacks, again, leaning into that little treat culture. And Herbalife, they've also responded to the need of their GLP-1 users as well with this GLP-1 companion nutrition. So we've been covering plant-based since the start of our trend report back in 2017, and we've certainly seen a lot of change. It started with plant forward, and then it has evolved into highly processed faux meat substitutes that have been fueled by tech funders and venture capitalists. And so we thought it was only fitting to apply that Gartner's tech hype cycle to this marketplace. So you can see, high technology, those are your Beyond Meats, your Impossible Burgers. Everybody went, tried them, they were disappointed. So there we get the trough of disillusionment. And now I think we're starting to see our way back to what's best about the product. Because processed food is processed food, right? So putting the plant back. So, consumers want simplification. They don't want ultra-processed food. Why would they want it in this area? And so we're starting to see consolidation, right? We've heard Impossible, Beyond, they're going through all sorts of issues. There are a lot of products at retail. Those are starting to be consolidated, and even within the plant milk space, we've seen some discontinuations by Daniel under its Silk and So Delicious brands. So everybody's struggling. But I think the way forward is, again, to celebrate what is best about the plant rather than, what it's replacing. And if you think about it, the majority of the world is plant forward, right? You think of all the great cuisines in the world. I think Ethiopian, Indian, a lot of Mexican, Chinese, there are a lot of great plant-based. And what happened with food tech getting in there was, they confused the language of tech, I think, with the language of gastronomy. So perhaps we need to go back a bit. So this was a SIAL Innovation finalist last year. I had the privilege of trying it. They are delicious. They're tempeh chips and really thin, really tasty. Another thing we see in Ireland, there has been a launch of Kerry Foods. They're a really big dairy company there. They have an oat and dairy range that balances both sustainability, health, and taste. This was also a SIAL last year. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Epic, who I saw in the startup area this year on the floor. And we've talked about, like, China has all different kinds of tofus. We've barely scratched the surface in North America. So I think that there's lots of areas for these kind of products. And then, of course, kelp jerky. Kelp, seaweed, probably the next superfood, so keep that one on your radar as well. And then I think this is my final trend. Our food system has suffered a stunning loss in diversity. We have 3 plant species, that make up 70% of our diet. And as we lose diversity in our food system, we're also losing diversity in our microbiome. So this is not a good thing. So to protect, to future-proof our food system, we need to start reintroducing heritage crops. And so Unilever and the WWF have partnered on this Future Foods 50 to try to increase these heritage products. And one of the foods on the list that we could take a page out of is quinoa, right? Nobody had heard of quinoa 20 years ago, and now it's a kitchen staple. So there is a way to do it, but of course, in order to do it, you need support through the whole food system. So it's one thing to come out with a new kind of bean for consumers, but that's just not enough. To make it work, you really have to have this coordinated effort. So somebody has to supply the seeds or the beans. There has to be somebody who's going to buy them, pick them, process them, and then there needs to be, chefs who are eager to use them in their products and their dishes as well. So I've talked, I think, enough about Nourish, what we can do for you, but if you're looking for an agency that understands food and knows how to support you, please reach out. You can get a copy of our trend report, download it in either French or English at our website, nourish.marketing. My contact's there. I also have some postcards with information on our trend report as well, so see me afterwards.